Hey there. Thanks for downloading the show. This is Eric. I have a podcast called Garden Fork Radio. I've got this thing right above my microphone that says A-H ... with a big red slash through it because I say too much. But I just said So I'm trying to get better at being radio voice, Eric. So we'll see what goes here. This is a solo show. I have a podcast usually with guest hosts, but I'm trying to be better at talking on my own. I can do that in front of an audience, actually really well. But for the podcast, I'm kind of all alone. I've got my computer set up here, and I've got a bunch of emails queued up on the screen to look at, and we'll go from here. We'll see what happens. What do you all think? First, I wanted to thank, we have some new patrons on our Patreon campaign. Patreon is a website that helps content creators. I get kind of tired of that word. People like me who make stuff basically fund the production of it. And it's like a PBS or NPR model where you contribute, because I'm not a nonprofit, so it's not a donation, contribute a couple bucks a month. And I ask for $3 a month or whatever you can afford. And again, if you need help yourself, do not give Eric money. I have a roof over my head. If you're in a tough time, just enjoy the show. But that information is in the show notes. Patreon.com/gardenfork is the website information for that. But there are a couple new ones, and I wanted to say hello and thanks, a big thank you. Vincent A., Brad J., Mikel, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Mikelle. Sorry, Mikel. Jeff S. Thanks a lot. Yay. So again, the information for that, the link for that is in the show notes of the thing. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast, if you just touch on the Garden Fork logo while it's playing, a bunch of text will come up with a bunch of links, and one of them is to our Patreon campaign there. You can also just email me. It's radio@gardenfork.tv. How's that, huh? So let's call the show Viewer Mail. Sometimes, I just said, look at that. I'm a little remiss in responding. I think I'm pretty good, but if I haven't responded to you, or I said, yeah, let's do that, and then you don't hear from me, would you just email me back? It's radio@gardenfork.tv, because if you know Eric, I pay attention to what's in front of me. And I've gotten much better. I carry around one of those journalist or reporter's notebook. It's spiral bound across the top, and it's kind of tall and narrow. And if I write stuff down, I'm much better at going back to it and going, I need to do this and I need to do that. So today we need to read some viewer mail. And the first one is from Catherine, who is a longtime supporter of Garden Fork. I think, wow, Catherine, how long has it been? I don't know. I follow her actually on Instagram. She has a lot of pictures. So she says, hey, Eric, I seem to remember you had some sort of how-to post or video for podcasting via Skype. I can't find it. Can you point me in the right direction? A friend and I are going to try to do a podcast, and she lives in a different city. And that's from Catherine. So yeah, let's just run down this really quick. It is super simple to create your own podcast. I think the biggest problem with it is people either run on too much, who could that be, or it's stuff that people don't want to listen to, or they try and make it sound like radio. Hey there, this is Joe Blow. And I think what's so important is to just be yourself. And I sometimes have, I get a little weird about that because I get a little concerned about how much people actually know about my life, because I run into them and they know an awful lot. But I keep doing what I'm doing, right? So there you go. But anyway, it's not rocket science. I will link to the microphone I think you should buy. You plug it into the back of your computer. You could get a little boom arm for it. There's a guard called a pop guard that I put in front of this, because when you have that can sometimes create an audio effect in your podcast, which you don't want to do. And this screen is like $3 or something. And then you just talk. I suggest you have a list of things to talk about, like I queued up a bunch here. If you're going to want to talk with a friend who is not physically in the same room, I suggest using Skype with a plugin called Record a Call, made by a company called Ecamm, ECAMM.com. It's like $25. It's totally worth it. And you plug that in, and then you can call your friend and you can record the call. You can record the audio and the video. I would suggest just recording the audio. And the Skype call should also just be an audio call, not a video call, because if you're doing video back and forth, that really diminishes the bandwidth and the audio quality suffers from that. Then you can edit it in, on the Mac at least, you can use GarageBand or iMovie. I think the key is don't use music you don't own. That will get you in a lot of trouble these days. You can get royalty-free music from a number of places. I think actually the Library of Congress has quite a few copyright-free recordings. That's loc.gov. What an amazing place. And it's an example of our government actually working, which I love when it actually works. The Library of Congress, they now are having a program where you can help transcribe and translate letters and documents. They have I guess it's a volunteer program. It's loc.gov, and you can search there. I use images from there sometimes when I'm looking for an image to go along with a video or a podcast or something for the website, loc.gov. But anyway, you could use music from there. You can find royalty-free music, or you could just pay for it, which is what I do. I was using audio blocks, and I got a little tired of that, so I ended my subscription there. But all the music that I downloaded from there, I still have the license to use, and that's very important. You could, basically, if you type in royalty-free music, there are some kind of scam sites, but consider public sources, public resources for music that is it 50 years is how long the copyright lasts? Is it a copyright? Anyway, the license. But there you go. The hump with podcasts is getting it onto iTunes. And they need what's called, to geek out for a minute, they need a iTunes compliant RSS feed. And it's not just like an RSS feed from your WordPress website. It's a very unique RSS feed. And it has all sorts of special fields for it. But it's all about making iTunes and the Apple Podcast app happy. And then the other podcast players basically conform to that same kind of RSS feed. There are ways to do it for free, but you get what you pay for with free. I use Libsyn, Libsyn.com, Libsyn.com. And I pay a higher price because I have more shows per month. Well, ideally more shows per month, but you can get it for like $10 a month. So that's, if you want to have a podcast, I think $10 a month is pretty cheap. They will conform the feed. You upload your audio file, you type in your notes, and you hit go. And the cool thing about using Libsyn, and there are other, Podbean is another one, which I don't use. And I think there's another one, a couple out there. But what I like about Libsyn is that I upload it once, and I can configure it to be available on the iHeartRadio app, the Google podcast app. It's on another place that I'm blanking on, radio.com, I think it is, and iTunes. So iHeartRadio is actually a standalone app because the iHeartRadio company owns a bunch of radio stations, but you can also listen to podcasts on that. So for that $10 or $15 a month, they're doing an awful lot of work for you. I used to hand code the iTunes RSS feed using an app on my computer, and it was a pain, and it would work sometimes and sometimes it wasn't. So that's the hump. There are also plugins. If you are going to have a WordPress site, you can upload the audio to your WordPress site as a post and use the plugin to configure that. My issue with that is that all of a sudden, this mystery company, which is doing this thing for free for you, they own your RSS feed address. And that, if you want to leave them, doing what's called a redirect for that can be complicated. So what I like about Libsyn, they're very upfront. I think they're based in Pittsburgh. Super nice people. The tech support is really great. And what, 10, 15 bucks a month? You know, if you're doing it with a friend, you know, it's $7 each a month for being world famous. You know, that's pretty good. So there you go. Any more questions? It's radio@gardenfork.tv. I'll link in the show notes to the microphone I use. Oh, and one more thing. If you're going to want to do a podcast where the two of you are in the same room, get a Zoom H1 recording. It's a recorder with two microphones built in. It's about the size of an ice cream sandwich. How's that for an image? And get also the wind. It's called a dead cat. I mean, at least in my world, it's called a dead cat. It's that furry, puffy thing that can go over the end of it. If you're going to go outside, that is key. But I use that for in-person stuff, and the audio quality is amazing. The thing I'll leave you with is never record in MP3 format because it ruins the audio quality. Do you shop on Amazon? I shop locally and also on Amazon and other online stores. If I need something very specific, like seat covers for the new used car we just bought, I will go online and sometimes use Amazon. And Garden Fork happens to have a dedicated shopping page on the Amazon site now, which is very cool. It is an affiliate linked page. We do get a finder's fee for anything that you buy when you start shopping from that page. But I list there interesting items that I think are worthy of the Garden Fork DIY person. It's amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. If you would start your Amazon shopping experience, no matter what you're looking for on Amazon, start it at Garden Fork, and that would be great. It's amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. That's amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. A while back, I mentioned I used the term natural sugar, and the Garden Fork radio scientist, Tony, was on me, and he was like, what's this all about natural sugar? And what I meant was, I think I was talking about eating apples and oranges or something. It's a sugar that is naturally occurring in a fruit instead of something like high fructose corn syrup, which is, yeah, it's natural too. It is a sugar. It's a chemical. But high fructose corn syrup, I think, is a lot less healthy for you than eating an apple, which has sugar in it, but it also has fiber to counteract that sugar. You know, it has something, yeah, you're getting some sugar in your body, but you're also getting other good stuff in your body as well. You know, like apple a day actually is a really good thing. When I am hungry these days, I have like a food craving, I try and eat an apple instead of a piece of chocolate or something like that. So Garden Fork scientist Tony will be on soon. Rick and I are emailing with him, and Rick and Tony may do their own podcast. I think Rick really needs to have his own show, don't you? I've suggested this to him a couple of times. I'm in your ears right now, Rick. And Rick and Tony could talk about Jefferson versus Hamilton. Jeffersonian versus Hamiltonian, I guess. I don't know. I think they should do that. But there you go. Garden Fork Science Tony is coming. I misspoke when I used the term natural sugar there. I got an email from Peter a while back. A really great podcast is You Bet Your Garden from WHYY in Philadelphia. Host Mike McGrath is a former editor of Organic Gardening magazine and gives a very humorous take on gardening, lawn care, tree care from an environmentally friendly perspective. It's worth listening to just for Mike's humor, but you get a lot of really useful information if you're someone who spends time fiddling around the yard in the garden. That's from Peter in upstate New York. When we say upstate, because I live in New York City, that usually means above Westchester. And New York State is actually a giant place, and it is a beautiful state. It's there's just some stunning stuff up there. I go hunting on some reservoir land in what we call upstate New York, and it's beautiful. It's government-owned land that you're allowed to be on, and there's no one around. So it's quite nice. So anyway, the WHYY podcast, You Bet Your Garden there. I've said this before, but my office in Brooklyn, the floor tilts away from my desk, and I keep kind of falling away. The problem is I took the rollerblade kind of wheels and put them on my office chair because the cheapy plastic ones were scraping up the wood floor. But now they're so rollerbladey that I fall away from my desk because the floor is crooked. Hey, I got an email from Danielle Kay. Actually, we've been emailing a little bit back and forth, and maybe I owed you an email, Danielle. I can't tell here. Eric, not sure if you got my email below since you've responded really quickly. My emails in the past. Big hint. That was polite, wasn't it? I would still be interested in hearing more about homebrew on the podcast. Yeah, we totally. Well, after I read this through, we'll talk about homebrew. So I just listened to the Rich G podcast and subscribed to his podcast. I'm getting ready to launch my own business, so hopefully his marketing branding podcast will be helpful. The main reason I thought to reach out to you again was that I was in New York City this past weekend. My brother-in-law lives in Spanish Harlem. Oh, I know right where that is. But we got around the city over to Williamsburg on Sunday. I don't know where you lived until you mentioned Brooklyn on this episode, and I was just there, more or less. Williamsburg is called North Brooklyn, and I live in South Brooklyn. I am in Sunset Park, which is a fantastic neighborhood. It's below the Greenwood Cemetery, if anyone knows kind of the big monuments of Brooklyn. It is a fantastic neighborhood. It's a giant immigrant mix. I am definitely in the minority here, but I'm really happy with that. That's fine with me. I have Asian, mainly Chinese families up the hill from me, and I have Latino, Mexican, Colombian, Puerto Rican families below me, and I kind of live in the middle of a slope. And then we have a big industrial area on the harbor or the bay, and Industry City is there, which is taking some World War II era buildings and making them, they have been light manufacturing, which continues, but they're taking the lower floors and making them into interesting retail. So if you come to Brooklyn, consider checking out, it's called Industry City. They have a giant food hall there. Daniel continues, keep up the good work with the podcast. I'd love to be on it someday if we could find enough to talk about. Some topic areas might be possible. Gardening in the suburbs, me starting my own business, trying to plan a homestead layout, fermenting. I do kombucha, ginger beer, kimchi, sourdough beer, and hard cider. I'm thinking about turmeric beer, but don't know how it would taste. I actually am making some kombucha down in the kitchen here, and I don't know if I'll keep making it or not. I'm kind of on the fence about it. At the moment, I'm a little underwhelmed by kombucha. I do drink it from time to time. Like when I go to the fancy food store, I go to Whole Foods, I'll grab a bottle of kombucha because I think it's part of that microbiome thing and it helps you. Maybe the recipes I'm using, I'm not really using a recipe, typical Eric. It's really, really tart stuff, and my neighbor makes it, and he puts more sugar in it. But I'm wondering, is that counterproductive to the kombucha to put sugar that much? I put a little sugar in just because it's kind of like a vinegar. So I don't know. I'm sure Daniel will let us know, or you will, radio@gardenfork.tv, right? I got a note from Tim H. about alcohol in gas. In other words, the ethanol that is in most gasoline. In Connecticut or New York City at least, you cannot get gasoline that does not have ethanol in it. There are some states where you can get ethanol-free gas, or sometimes they sell ethanol gas as the lower octane ratings, but if you get the highest octane rating, evidently that is ethanol-free. But Tim wrote and said, have you seen the method of removing the alcohol from gasoline using water? There are some YouTube videos of people doing it. I thought about doing it, but I'm also trying to get gas out of my life and have both vehicles on diesel and converted my lawnmower and edger to propane. Wow. It seems a better way than buying expensive gas in a can at the store. So he's talking about the pre-mixed fuels, I think. Yes. But they have, so if you've converted to propane, that would be you're using the 4-cycle premix. It's not a premix, it's 4-cycle gas that has the ethanol removed. And it's not cheap, but it will save your carburetor. On the recent podcast, you and Will were talking about replacement carbs for small engines. I've bought the cheapo on eBay for my Echo blower, and they work fine in my situation. So yeah, I just did a video about getting my neighbor's Husqvarna. I just said that correctly, not Husqvarna. Husqvarna chainsaw running. He bought it for $15 at a yard sale. I'm sounding like I'm from Boston. A yard sale. And he dropped it off at my house. He goes, hey, maybe you can make a video about this. And of course, it sat in my basement for 6 months. And I got it running. We'll link to the video in the show notes here. But I think it could use a new carburetor. And from Husqvarna, they are quite expensive. And I've seen some carburetor knockoffs for sale, clone carburetors. And I was curious whether they would work or not. So that was interesting. So yeah, thank you, Tim. I emailed Tim. I was curious more about his propane conversions. Maybe we can get him on the show there. I got a neat email from Helen after talking about solar with Rick. I just finished listening to the podcast. I really enjoyed it. I like the idea of mounting your solar panels on a platform above the roof. Yeah, it's working out really well. Oh, I could look up our energy here. Hold on. I've got, and I got to go move the car soon. So when I jump off the microphone here, I got to go move. It's alternate side parking in New York City. And you have to move your car so the guy can come, the street cleaner can come. I am generating, that doesn't look correct. Let's see, 12. No, that's yesterday. What's today? Maybe I need to refresh it. Oh, I think I locked up the app. Total yield yesterday was 8.17 kilowatt hours. Today it's just started. The sun is coming up. Well, it's up in a while. But anyway, let me finish this and then I got to go move the car. Okay. We have a small 8-panel off-grid system that augments our electric use. We have installed the solar power on our shed. It charges all the power tools and other shed stuff. We've installed a microwave and countertop oven in the shed and cook our meals by solar during the hottest parts of the summer. Very smart. In the house, we run the refrigerator and TV and enough outlets to charge all electronics. We plan to expand the off-grid system as our budget allows. We live in a state that is not solar friendly, unlike New York State, so installing net metering system is not cost effective for us. We drive an electric car as well. Great way to travel. We've crossed the U.S. twice from supercharger to supercharger. I love your podcast and look forward to listening each week. And that's from Helen. Helen is going to be on the show, and we'll hear all about this. I think it'll be very nice. All right, let me go move the car, and I'll be back in a second. Hey, real quick here. I was wondering if you wanted to join the Garden Fork email list. It's Maura Eric. I don't know if you want that or not. But the best way to do that, if you go to the gardenfork.tv site, there are signups all over the place. There should be one on every page. Also, in the show notes for this show, if you're listening to it in the iTunes app or one of the other podcast apps, to click on the little, I think you click on the little text thumbnail of the show and the notes will pop up and there's a link in there. Or just go to gardenfork.tv and there should be a sign up there. All right? Thank you. All right. The car has been moved successfully. What a little dance for 15 minutes. It is from the outside, it either looks chaotic or strange, or it could be kind of a car choreographed dance. But we've talked about it before in the podcast. Rick does not understand it, but that's okay because in Virginia, they don't have to do that. You do have to do it in New York City here. By the way, I thought I meant to ask at the beginning of the show how your meditation was going. Mine's going good. I have missed a couple days, but you can just pick up where you left off. Headspace is the app I use. Some people use the Calm app, which is a different one, but I've never used that. But what the heck, you know? Also, the solar array, I think I just got my app to work, and it shows that my power is increasing as the sunlight is increasing. Here we go. Check my portal. The total yield today is 1.5 kilowatt hours, but it's starting to spike right now. So yeah, as the sun comes up, interesting, about a little before 8 a.m., it really starts to get womping. So, and the meter spins backwards. Con Ed came and put in the net meter the other day, and that was kind of exciting. Also coming up is our interview with Mike from the Space Rocket History podcast. Jimmy Goots, our executive producer, will be making an appearance. I know usually he pretty stays under wraps, but I'm going to get him out. And it might be even like a 2-part show. Also on Amazon Prime, there are a bunch of space history documentaries that I'm watching as I exercise in the basement. My neighbor gave me a free TV because they were getting a new TV. It's like a 30-inch flat panel, and I had an old Apple TV box, so I just plugged it in, and you can put on Prime and PBS and all that, and you can watch stuff while you work. I just need something to keep my mind busy while I exercise, so that works really well. So I'm doing one about the space launches, the moon launches, of course. So there you go. One more letter from Sue H. Please, pretty please do more podcasts. Really enjoy Rick and Will when they join you. Thanks, Sue in Arkansas. You can help me do this. I need someone to just schedule for me, to make me do stuff. And I wanted to do one of those virtual assistants. Have you ever had a virtual assistant, or do you have one that you like? I was thinking of using someone from Elance. From what I understand, there's a lot of virtual assistants that are based in the Philippines. From my friend Daniel Delaney, who does Delaney Chicken in New York City here. He has a virtual assistant that he relies on a lot. And I don't need one full time. I just need someone a couple times a week to email with me or talk with me and go, here's what we're doing, and set up interviews. I'm always thinking, I'd love to have that person on the podcast. And then the follow through for me, as we all know, is incredibly hard. The most successful people are those that keep bugging me to be on the show, like Will from the Weekend Homestead, who will be on soon because he just bought a campground. Hello. Will just bought a campground, which I would never do. But anyway, there you go. As always, a review is really helpful on iTunes, the 5 stars, and using keywords like DIY and how to, home improvement. That always helps. So if you want to do that. And hey, we have a new review from a faithful viewer, YouTube and listener, podcast 5 stars, someone in Patterson, New York, which I know where that is. I'm not one to write iTunes reviews. This might be my first. It's long overdue, but deserved for Eric. I've watched many of his videos, catching up on the oldest ones, and listened to most of his podcasts. I really enjoy Eric's way of speaking. Is he a professionally trained speaker, polished and edited? Not sure, but probably not. That's really true. But that's what makes his programs easy to view, listen to. It's a refreshing change. Nothing pretentious, down to earth. It comes through both in his videos and podcasts. Most times his videos are just himself and his elusive camera operator. His podcasts frequently include his salt of the earth type friends and guests who are quite interesting too. The length of his videos and podcasts are just right. His candor, i.e. mistakes, are endearing. He's just a normal guy sharing his experiences. Think of him as the neighbor you'd like to have next door or down the road. Got a problem? He's probably knowledgeable on the solution, or at least willing to roll up his sleeves and figure it out. He strikes me as the kind of person who would actually help out too. This is very true, actually. His programs are a how-to smorgasbord. What a great phrase. That's a great phrase. The content is appealing and such a wide variety: bees, maple syrup, small engine repair, gardening, cold frame, seed collecting, pruning, clearing a clogged drain, and a bunch more. Reminds me of This Old House in a way, but from a normal guy. I formerly lived in Brooklyn Heights, near his New York City residence. I know exactly where that is. Now live in the Hudson Valley, a short stone's throw from the Connecticut border. Oh, wow. We should meet up. Not too far from his other residence. I can appreciate his experience from both areas. Listening to the podcasts are great for winding down at the end of the day. I'm grateful they contain no loud music, no long intros, and no membership drives. Well, kinda. And thrilled he stays clear of politics and controversy. Oh, love the pups too. How cool is that? I know where Patterson, New York is. Maybe we could meet up. Maybe we could meet in Millerton. You know? You ever know? Email me, radio@gardenfork.tv. That was great. That was a great way to end the show. I got the car moved. Mr. Patterson, New York knows what that's like too. And it's Thursday. I'm cleaning the house today because that's what you do when your wife is like the powerful executive. All right, everyone. So thank you. Thank you for listening. I'll be back soon. We'll have Mr. Space Rocket History on here. We'll have Jimmy Goots. We'll have Will. Erin just got her soil test back, and I'm trying to get her on the show. We've been emailing about that as well. All right, so go out and do cool stuff, and please make it a great day. All right? Karma is boomerang. See ya. Garden Fork Radio's executive producer is Jimmy Goots of hollowbooks.com, and our music is licensed from uniquetracks.com.